today the lawyer from all the world gathered with us for this conference dedicated to legal experience and business meeting. Your presence here bears witness to the importance of dialogue among legal professionals and to the need to create spaces for discussion on matters which now more than ever transcend national borders. Here we are in the Whole Justice Palace of Rome, now seat of the Supreme Court and the quarters of the Bar Council. As far as the Rome Bar is concerned, it is considered appropriate to premise that Rome Bar is not a simple association, but is a real public body established by the law, having as headquarters in the Eternal Cities, the capital of Italy. It is headed by a council elected every 4 years, and it guards a role in which almost 25,000 lawyers and 5,000 practitioners are registered. Each Thursday in this magnificent hall, the Rome Bar Council has its meetings to manage all matters: new lawyers registration, cancellation, legal aid regulation, discipline, etc. Today, here we have the opportunity to discuss about legal matters. The focus of our meeting is indeed one of the essential tools to regulate relations between senior and young lawyers in an increasingly interconnected and globalized world. Rome, the city that hosts you, is not only the capital of Italy, but also a universal capital of the law. Here, centuries ago, the foundations of the Western legal institutions were laid that still inspire and influence Europe and much of the world. Rome has always been a crossroad of peoples, cultures, and ideas. It is this very vocation that makes it the natural stage for international meetings such as ours. At the end, allows me, therefore, to thank you warmly for joining us. I hope that your stay in Rome will be not only an occasion for work and study, but also a living experience of the beauty, history, and hospitality of this extraordinary city. Last but not least, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to all those who contributed to the realization of this important meeting. IBA, IJA, HASLA, and mostly my friend Claudio Visco and our senior president from the committee, or from Paris. But I be also very grateful to all the speaker, and I would like to express my special appreciation to Chiara Caliandro and Gian Matteo Nunziante and their staff for the organizational skill they have demonstrated on this occasion. With my warmest welcome, I wish you faithful discussions and a successful dialogue between lawyers. Thank you very much. Please.
Thank you, Mr. President, for the very nice word. And I'm very, very happy being here. I've been for 10 years, or maybe even more, the Italian council member at the IBA, so I've represented this very important bar association in the international arena with the IBA. I'm also, I'm very proud of being president of the association now. I think it's not just me, but it's a recognition for the role that Italy and the Rome Bar Association have been playing in the framework of the association. Now, I have to say a few words. First of all, I'm just joining the president in thanking Chiara and Gian Matteo for the work, and Antoine for being here. With Antoine, I've been friends for 30 years now, and we are both senior. He's the chair of the senior lawyers committee, and maybe I will join you very soon. I want to say a few words about the IBA. That may be a repetition for some of the persons sitting here who are already IBA members. They know better than me what the IBA is doing, but just for the benefit of those who are not familiar with the association, perhaps two words are important. We are the largest lawyers association in the world. We have 80,000 individual members, almost 200 bar association and law societies as member, and most of the big domestic and international law firms who are group members, almost another 200 members, with all the lawyers who practice in these firms. So very strong presence. We are even bigger than the American Bar Association, not in terms of number, of course they have more because they are the mandatory bar association, but in terms of international activities. In a way, we share the arena with the Unione Internationale des Avvocati, the Young Lawyers Association, and very strict cooperation also with CCB, the European Bar Association body. Actually, with these other organizations, we have sort of very close and ongoing coordination. We have created our own G7 that we call L5. We meet on a regular basis just to coordinate our approach to matters of common interest, and particularly in the last few months especially, but the last 2 or 3 years, the need of coordination to take position and to intervene in those situations in which the rule of law, Stato di diritto, has been under severe challenge, has been one of the reasons for somehow reinforcing our cooperation. And this introduced me to what we do. In addition of being, of course, the largest lawyers association, and particularly in the business law sector, we are very active. The real core of the association is, of course, business lawyers in terms of numbers, but in terms of what we do, it's much more than only business law. I mentioned rule of law. This has been one of the areas in which we have been more active in recent years. I'm starting from the oldest one. We have started with Afghanistan, then we had Ukraine, then we had Palestine, we had Venezuela with Maduro, Iran, we have the executive orders of President Trump and other initiatives which are putting into serious discussion the principle of international law and international order. Of course, there are different points of view, but we, as the guardian of the rule of law, we have to speak anytime the rule of law and the principle of international law and international order are violated. And this happens in most of the cases I mentioned to you. In all this situation, we took a position very open. one of our must is that of not being political. We never take political positions. But whenever somebody crossed the red line, it doesn't matter whether it is political or not. We feel obliged to intervene, as we have done in all this situation. We issue detailed statement in which we explain the situation from an objective standpoint, also as a matter of information for our members and for the entire world. And then we take our position, which is, of course, usually condemning those situations which we believe being against international law principles. I want to spend a few words on Ukraine, because this is a particular situation. What we are doing at the moment, together with the Council of Europe and several European and non-European governments, we are promoting the creation of an international tribunal for the crime of aggression against Ukraine. What is the reason for this? The crime of aggression is not covered by the ICC. It's not within the jurisdiction of the ICC, except in very specific circumstances. Means if the Security Council of the United Nations asks the ICC to take jurisdiction on a case. Of course, there is a system of veto rights in the United Nations which will make this possibility merely theoretical. So we are working to create this tribunal because this is absolutely necessary. All this crime cannot remain unpunished. And we encourage everybody to maybe disseminate our initiative. I'm here to respond to any question. We are having constant meetings in The Hague with the ICC because the ICC itself is supporting us because they say, well, this will complement our jurisdiction, and one day we hope this will come within the jurisdiction of the ICC, but this could only happen at the earliest in 2029, when we have the next round of negotiation of the state party treaty for the creation of the International Criminal Court. One last point, then I leave the floor to the other interventions, is artificial intelligence. This has been one of my priorities as president of the IBA. The association has been involved and active in the field of artificial intelligence at the level of its divisions and committee for now more than 2 or 3 years. In Toronto, we had some 28 sessions of the various committees dealing one way or the other with artificial intelligence. We expect to have the same number of sessions in Copenhagen, our annual conference that you are cordially invited to attend. We hope to be, it's going to be a very great success. And we believe that artificial intelligence, however, is something which has not only legal implication, or at least that we should not, even though we are lawyers, we should not look at artificial intelligence just as a problem of what is the impact on the legal profession, what is the impact on the organization of law firms, what is the impact at the level of ethical and deontological consideration. This is all very important, but this is already happening. What we have realized is not happening at the moment is really create awareness of what is the impact of artificial intelligence on our society at large. For these purposes, we have created an artificial intelligence institute within the IBA, as we did for human rights. We have a human rights institute. We are more or less replicating the format with artificial intelligence. We have retained a very senior very young but senior, because in this field, if you have 5 years, you are senior already. It's so fast and so, in a way, the young generation are so protagonist in the field of artificial intelligence that having a person with 5 years of experience is a senior person. So, and the idea of this institute is that of participating to all initiatives at any level, United Nations, OECD, governments, market players, just to make sure that we are present, we understand what is happening, we understand which are the risks which could be identified in order to be able to speak up, give our contribution. We have an enormous think tank within our organization, so we are certainly able to give our input and make sure that really this phenomenon we will have to live with it. We did an institute and not the task force or a presidential project, because we know that this is just the starting point. We want to continue, we will be present, and we will be watching what is going on in order to be sure that whenever we have to speak up, we will. Very last point, I promise. Rule of law, just second back to that. We have launched an initiative with the Ministry of Education of Denmark and the Danish Bar Association, not just because we love them, but because our conference will be in Copenhagen, because we have realized that there is not awareness in the young generation of what rule of law means, and in particular, what are the consequences of rule of law not being upheld. So what we are doing is we have resumed certain videos we had created in 2018, explaining in simple words and to ordinary people what rule of law means and what are the consequences of not being respected. And we are asking young students in the high schools in Denmark to produce their own video. Of course, we are supporting them both in terms of providing them the framework of the issue so that they understand. They will produce their own video, and the best video will be on stage at the opening ceremony of our conference in Copenhagen, and the best ones will receive an award. So I think that's it. Thanks again to the Rome Bar for giving me this possibility. And I leave the floor to Antoine Maffei, the president of the Senior Lawyer Association of the IBA.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. When Gian Matteo just suggested that that this meeting, this event be organized earlier this year with Joao and myself, we're just thrilled by the subject, because training of passing on the baton, passing on the experience of the older generation to the younger generation is a key concern in all of our firms, including ours in Paris. And that effort also is benefiting from the experience of our colleagues across the globe in other firms. And this is what led to the creation of the Senior Lawyer Committee at the IBA about 10 years ago. And Italy has had a very strong participation in the creation of the Senior Lawyer Committee, including Franco Gianni, for instance, was one of the first co-chairs of the committee. Our key concern is just to see how we can contribute, to passing on the tradition, to the usages and the experience to the younger people. This is our key concern, but our focus is also to do this in cooperation with the other committees in the IBA, including the Young Lawyers Committee, as a matter of fact, with whom we have a very close relationship, and the Law Firm Management Committee, and also the Professional Ethics Committee, which is very important. And we organize each year, as a matter of fact, at the IBA, including in the one, who is going to take place in Copenhagen, a number of panels, which focuses on those themes. And this theme is on the agenda of the meeting in Copenhagen. And we certainly encourage all of you, to participate in those events in Copenhagen to the extent you're able, just to come to Copenhagen. So thank you very much for this invitation, Janette. I will not take too much time because, the schedule is very busy. And we are just extremely happy to have been able just to contribute in the organization of this meeting. As a matter of fact, there is going to be one subject along the same lines in Copenhagen, which is on the agenda. So thank you very much for your attention.
No, I think that we can start now with the first panel. We don't use other time for, we are running quite short of time. So Chiara, maybe you can call your panel members. We will, I will leave and I will come back for the second panel.
I kindly ask Manuela Cavallo and Irene Scanzo and Alessandro Pesa and Mauro Corselli to join me on stage. And in the meantime, thank you very much. Grazie Presidente. Vi volete spostare di là? Io posso. Stia qua. Ok. Yes, thank you. Grazie. Va bene. As you prefer. Ok. Cool. Ok. So, Manuela, lo faccio io. You can take a seat and then, yes, so that I can introduce you. So in this order, so Manuela Cavallo is the founding partner of the law firm Portonano Cavallo, offices in Rome, Milan, and New York. She advises on domestic and international clients on M&A transaction, reorganization, joint venture transactions. I will cut all the presentation a little bit shorter than what was supposed to be. NYU LLM, she has also served as a member of the advisory board of Luminance for 3 years, and this is also one of the reasons why I invited her to be here today, and I'm very thankful for you joining me. And Manuela is an IBA member, but also former AIGA member, which is the Young Lawyer Association, and that I am also proudly represent here. And as President Visco said, we have strong connection with the IBA, and we met because we had a fantastic event in Rome with the IGA, also thanks to President Graziani today. Irene Scalzo, it's a little bit of a last minute, so we thank her even more because Luca Frignani, her colleague, was supposed to join today, but he couldn't make it, so thank you very much, Irene, for this last minute. It was around 1:14 this morning when she discovered it, so thank you very much. And Irene is a partner at Chiomenti, always on the move in between Milan and Rome. She is highly specialized in banking, finance, and structured finance. She has also been awarded as Best Practice Capital Markets Lawyer of the Year at Legal Community Under 40, so I will bring you into the young lawyer side of today's panel. And then we have next to her Mauro Corselli is a partnership manager at Lexrum with extensive experience in development, strategic collaboration. Mauro coordinates the ecosystem of relationships that allow Lexrum to position itself as a benchmark in the Italian legal tech landscape. And he will also tell us why today. Then we have last but not least, Alessandro. Alessandro Pesa is the Italy sales manager at Saga, being responsible for introducing Italian legal professionals to the AI-powered workflows that Saga has to offer. And I just quit here because really we are late, but thank you to the president, thank you all, and thank you, Gian Matteo, for making me being in this beautiful room with the distinguished professional all around. This panel will give us a glimpse of a little bit in between what professionals are doing with AI and with new technologies, and what are these service providers, the new technologies, AI providers offering to the professionals. So I leave it to you, and thank you again for being here today.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me here. I know I have a little bit of time to prepare for this conference, but of course these are matters and issues that we always discuss between lawyers, friends, and of course we have already started to use and try to adapt to our everyday work and ordinary matters during our legal work in legal profession. So I think that I would also try to coordinate today's panel and today's discussion. And of course, you will have a contribution from the use of the AI from lawyers, so how we apply these first tools we have kind of internalized in our legal profession, and of course, the point of view of the providers and what are the challenges and first feedbacks they have received from all people that are, and also organizations like law firms that have started to use this kind of tools. I would start with Manuela, and I will also share my personal experience on how we have actually started using these tools and how we have, what are the first experiences we ever had, why we are using that, and what kind of first experiments we have done involving our younger colleagues to start using these tools and first impressions.
I'll start?
Yes.
Okay. So our firm is, I think, quite famous in Italy to be, let's say, on the edge of technology and the use of technology, first of all, because of our media, digital tech industry focus, but also because since now it's been since 2016 that we use luminance for due diligence. So we've been quite advanced in use of technology as soon as we could. But of course, now we see something which is completely different from just using, nothing against luminance, which we still use for due diligence, but is, I think nowadays, generative AI, something which is actually exploding in all daily activities of our legal profession. So when we think about generative AI and everything which is, let's say, AI platform, we think about domain systems, those that are represented here, but also others. But I think at the end of the day, we have been using AI probably over the past years without even knowing that we were using AI. For example, realize that DeepL Pro is based on AI. And I think all our lawyers have been using DeepL over the past years. Litera, which is a compared system, is based on AI. So at the end of the day, we are using AI without even knowing that we're actually using. So now we are all fancy about the big names of AI, but actually this has been going on for several years. Where we are as a firm. As a firm, we have introduced all different tools. As I said, we have Luminance, we have Litera, we have other big, of course, systems. But I think at the end of the day, the question is not whether you use one or the other, it's the question of how you implement in your daily activities. And what we have seen, we started using, as I said, in September, rolling out Legora, for example, as one of the big ones in the firm. And we have seen at the beginning a little bit of concern, more from the junior than from the partners. And there are some of my partners here, and when one of the partners went to a mid lawyer and said, why don't you use AI for this review of the contract? The person said, why? I'm not using the junior lawyer and I'm using the tool. Nowadays, if we look at the numbers, and I've put some numbers out, we have, for 100% of engagement in AI. So there is nobody in the firm who doesn't use generative AI for his, let's say, daily activities, which can be Copilot or Legora, whatever we have. So I think this is really making a difference over the past months. Since we started in September, and now we see really 100% engagement. And there are different tools that we use. For example, what we notice based on the number, for example, that we use a lot the assistant for AI, and the tabular reviews for documents. And actually, if we go then into details, we see that the practices that were using mostly let's say the AI are M&A, corporate, general, let's say transactional work, banking, yeah, and litigation. Those are the two areas in which we see the vast majority of use in the firm. So for us, this is at least, let's say, the main review after 6 months of implementation. Of course, then there are many details, but I think that has been quite let's say, the change in the months.
If I can add, I am also, of course, aligned with Manuela in terms of the use we are making of these tools. We have also adopted a specific instrument, which is RV, that has been designed especially for the legal profession. And we have internalized this tool in order to feed the tool, to train the tool with all the information and inputs we give it. Also in terms of policy, of course, we have the possibility to share documents and information also related to specific transaction or specific issues, because it's an internal tool that has been internalized and trained for internal purposes of the law firm. So of course, we also add experiences on luminance and specific previous tools, especially for due diligence exercise. But with RV, that we are training each one for each specific practice, of course. So he's kind of been trained for every specific matter with dedicated lawyers. We are also feeding it with documents together with specific information that have been included during the deals and daily use of the instrument. And of course, we are using it for due diligence, of course, but also in terms of first review of documents, the production of what is the very first approach that a young lawyer can have to documents in terms of summary of complex documents, or also to prepare other documents that are a support to a meeting, or the main documents that needs to be discussed or reviewed among lawyers. So of course we are also testing it a lot. And in terms of utilization, I agree with Manuela, everyone in the firm uses it. Of course, we have different approaches, because young lawyers are very, very fast and very dedicated to it, because of course they have understood that it is very important to learn prompting. So of course, it's not a matter of really the answers, but how we are making the good and proper questions to the tool in order to have a better output, of course. And so that I think that they are the best one in prompting, and the one that are going faster on this kind of exercise. So this is a first, the share first impression of our, the very first experience we are having with Arve, but I will leave also the floor to Mauro to also give us a sense as provider of the first feedback you have received in terms of use of these tools, also by law firms. So if you have a
Yes, of
specific
course.
feedback on that.
Thank you. I'm on the provider side, so my contribute today is giving market vision and what we see as a company, especially in the Italian market, because we started 2 years ago and focusing on Italian market, and specifically on single professionals. Then we expanded to law firms and legal department of big companies, or even small and medium enterprises. And we saw different outputs and outcomes by this clusterization. So it's very different the way they use our platform for different activities. What we saw at first is that we moved from an initial phase of resistance. We all know that, especially Italian lawyers are afraid of change and afraid of innovation. I mean, they've always done work in a certain way. So we eventually cracked the code by learning and courses and expanding our vision and the narrative towards them to make them understand what AI is. So literacy, AI literacy, it's something that we pushed very much on, and then this phase changed from resistance to curiosity, and then this curiosity came out as interest, and then awareness. So now we are shifting from the awareness phase towards the adoption phase. And as a provider, we see that efficiency and optimization of the activities is the main driver here, especially for, small lawyers and single professionals. The the main driver is time efficiencies. Make activities faster and with accuracy. The only problem is that we see is a little bit of a cultural problem, and I want to raise this argument because sometimes, and maybe most of the times in Italy, I don't know, you can give me an international view on this. Italian lawyers are very, they're afraid of change, as I said, but they focus and they spend so much effort on their work that they see, or they saw at least, AI as a disqualification of their, mental and logical processes. So it is hard to crack the Italian market because you have to tell them that AI strengthens the logical processes. We basically make them know that AI is a support platform for their logical processes and the way they work. It's not about just a question and an answer, or how good it would be. He's just, an assistant and something that deepens the logical reasoning of the lawyer. And that's what I believe these platforms are doing and will do in the future. The phase of workflows and all-in-one platform that would be the operating system of the future lawyer will come. Is not, as we see it in the Italian market right now, the phase, but we are going towards that.
Thank you very much. I don't know, Alessandro, if you want to also comment.
Yes, hello everyone. Yes, thank you. So first of all, to underline the use of AI, I mean, again, the use of AI, the use of similar solution is really, like, depending, of course, on the single cases, but I totally agree with what you shared about document analysis, drafting, reviewing contracts, legal research. Like, all these are, we can already define them basic features, but they really help in the everyday task and to save at least 60-70% of your job, so you can focus on finalizing the work. But what I really agree with you is how probably, and we are present in over 20 countries, how we probably see a different cultural approach to AI and similar solution in Italy still, unfortunately or fortunately, let's say. And in particular for Italy, it is surprising how I see the younger generation, as you mentioned, Manuela, the ones that are a bit more distant towards the use of similar solutions, while senior lawyers, partners, they are understanding that they actually want to pick up a solution as soon as possible. They want to understand which one is the best for their firms because they are scared to be left behind. And on the other hand, for example, in the other countries, just make an example about the Netherlands, where we are market leaders, I see the young generations very, very easy on picking up on these tools like ours. And this is mainly because they do not have their own structured way of working yet. While the senior lawyers, they already have their own structured way of working, which is tested, which has been used in this way for decades even. And so it's not so easy to bring from one day to another such a game-changing tool into your everyday job. This is where I think the two parts, the junior and the seniors, they should meet. On the other hand, the Italian lawyers, and not only, but mainly the Italian lawyers, I agree. They're probably scared that with the use of AI, they will not be working that much, that the AI will take over their job, but it's not like this. It's just a support to their use. What they are actually more feared of is the adoption, the use of it, the proper use of AI. It's not only about selecting which solution to use, it's about then implementing into your everyday job. In our case, specific case, we build tailored training. We actually have a program, guys that they only build tailored adoption programs, and they're not only at the beginning of the use of the AI, they are throughout the whole journey, throughout the whole year, because what is very important for this lawyer is not only to use AI, to have a proper use of AI, and then to transmit this to the younger generation, because the younger generation, they have to make sure that they use AI in the most in the best possible way, but most of all in the most ethical way also. So this is why we focus so much emphasis on training, because it comes directly from the lawyers, this demand.
I agree with you. Thank you very much. And if I can also comment one point of the difference between young lawyers and very senior lawyers. Maybe the different approach is also because the real difference we are saying from a first kind of output produced by a tool and the input and the added value that a senior lawyer can give, of course, the strategic view or that input in terms of final choices or structural choices for the client, of course, it's easily that it is produced or given by a senior lawyer having a specific experience or a deep knowledge of the matter than from a young lawyer that is still at the beginning or is training and needs to learn, of course. So I think this is one of the main elements saying, of course, for senior lawyers and partner, it's easier because we see it as a way, as a tool to for time efficiency, as you said, or to speed up the processes and try to save some time in order to arrive at that goal and provide the client with the final solution, adding our value and adding a specific input that, of course, cannot come from very young lawyers and young, of course, colleagues. So in terms of, as you said, try to supervise these processes and ensure that the tool is used properly, I would like to ask also Manuela if you have specific protocols or you have adopted some policies in order for every member of the law firm to properly use the tool you are adopting.
Yes, we have, first of all, we have created an AI committee, which is made by different seniority, people from different seniority. Actually, the first thing we did is we involved junior lawyers, and we went to them before actually even testing AI, and we said, how do you use it? Because they were at the time the ones who were using the most AI for their, let's say, leisure at home and things. So we asked first them. Second, when we started using AI lately in September, we opened this AI committee, which is made by junior associates, mid associates, actually more than junior partners and IT people, and they create our policy, our guidelines. They create trainings along with the different platforms, and I think they do monthly review and they provide a training at the beginning, but also awareness, what we call awareness courses and training during the months to really let us focus on the good things, but also on the risks of using AI, because there are risks, there are hallucinations, we all know, we all read on the news. And so we created a list of guidelines to follow, like for example, all the references and all the citations must be checked one by one. and this responsibility of the attorney and the partner in charge to review those line by line. So there is no way you can come to me and say, this is the decision, this is the holding of this decision, blah, blah, blah. I want to see the real decision. I want to read the entire, and this is responsibility of the partner in charge at the end of the day. So what we try to do is to let the people understand that the AI is a tool, like I'm using Word. Of course, it's a bit more sophisticated than Word, but at the end of the day, we really, I think, to avoid the big, let's say at this time, the big concern is hallucinations and malpractice, for a lawyer. We are reading in the news and we are all scared that this is something that can happen to any of us. I think the only way to overcome, you can put all the policies in place, all the systems in place, but at the end of the day, it's our responsibility as a lawyer to do the work and to review line by line what's the AI is suggesting. It's a tool that should be used as this. So at the end of the day, we trained a lot of people on the risk, but also on the opportunities that are in the AI. And so we're creating workflows through the platform. We are creating prompts which are used also to challenge the AI. So there is a list of prompts created by the AI committee, which is a way to challenge every time the AI on the results of a case or a decision or whatever is used. Then what we have done is also to, let's say, compare and to discuss with firms in other jurisdictions and trying to be aligned with what are the practices. For example, if you talk to English lawyers, which are here in the room, they're a bit more advanced because they've been using AI probably for more than we, at least in Italy, are using. So talking to people from other countries and exchanging ideas, I think at the end of the day, it's a way also to use the best out of it and to know how to overcome eventually the risk in terms of quality of the work, but also in terms of hallucination and malpractice issue eventually, hopefully not. So this is what we have done, and we do a survey regularly among the firm to ask feedback about the AI, or if they think that there is something else that we should do in terms of AI, because I don't think we are done. We're just at the beginning. So this is a way to get inputs from the junior associates and to get then to the next step.
Thank you very much, Manuela. If I can add, we from in the Chiumenti scenario, we do the same. We have the specific tool, as I was representing at the beginning, that is RV, and we also do trainings, and we also do specific follow-ups and catch-ups when we add a specific feature to the tool. So if there's something new or there's something that has been further developed, we do bi-weekly training to kind of exchange ideas, feedbacks, and also to update certain groups, starting from younger lawyers of the newly introduced features. And of course, we have a specific policy too, and a dedicated committee. And of course, since we use this internal tool, lawyers are not allowed, of course, to use documents or specific information using other tools that are not of the property of the law firm. So since we have RV that has been implemented in our systems, we cannot, of course, share that kind of information, but also information relating to specific clients or transaction using like Claude or other tools that are outside the proprietary tool, of course, that we have. And as I think another thing that we have all introduced because we have a mandatory provisions in this sense, it's the disclosure of the use of the AI to clients. And of course, we have changed our model, the engagement letter model that we use for the for the clients, because we need to disclose that we may use and we use AI in in the ordinary activities and also in terms of work on that specific matter, so that they are aware. We say them that we use RV, and of course they sometimes have some follow-up questions to ask for some clarity on the proper use of the tool and how we review the output, of course, as Manuela was saying, because of course the final responsibility of the partner and the person who has the fronting with the client managing the transaction. And of course, this is another thing that we need to do when facing new matters and new clients in terms of disclosure and possible use of the tool. From your experience, again, in terms of hallucinations, new tools and new features added to these tools, what are your thoughts in terms of also development of these tools from the very beginning or the first implementation of these tools in law firms and in other?
Yeah, I just want to add up a little thing on junior and senior relationship in choosing. We talk to AI committees of law firms almost, every day, and the fact that there is this attention to the methods and to the rules of engagement, frankly, is I'm very happy about it, because it clearly states that there is a very deep understanding of these rules that and that you mentioned, and I'm pretty excited about what's coming next, because if law firms are adopting that quickly, I don't see this changing in the next future, but on the contrary, very, very much deeper, and God only knows where we go. There's no turning back, that I'm sure of. And the junior lawyers, in my opinion, in the end, will serve as mentors other than mentees. And I really believe that, because they're fast, they adapt in a much quicker way. Switching to the risks, of course, there are many risks, and even in this case, the job of the AI committees and of the providers is to highlight and not get under the carpet like dust the risks and the ethical risks that are in adopting these platforms. Of course, but I mean every platform out there knows very well what are the objectives and what law firms are asking to us about privacy, about compliance, about avoiding as much as possible the hallucinations, and how hard is the need of traceable citation and sources. So our main focus is this one, but I mean, it eventually, and I believe we will talk about that, it's a prerequisite that every platform should have. It's also about data residency. So because of the fact that every platform relies on LLMs, they need to sign specific contracts that with OpenAI, Anthropic, and Google, that identifies, of course, everything that's needed from the market, and they are asking us, of course, and to guarantee that every law firm is safe in the adoption, because that's the first thing. And it's very hard to be compliant, I must say. Our technicians and our departments are working very, very hard. Laws are changing, as you know, and will keep changing and adapting, hopefully and eventually to the framework that is changing. And us as providers need to be very, very fast in advising also our clients and our prospects on what's changing and how we can help to be compliant in the adoption.
Yeah. First of all, I want to start saying that I'm very happy to hear that finally senior lawyers, they put junior lawyers into all the selection process of AI, and not only, and they listen to them and they let them be fully part of it, because I've seen a bit of everything, starting from the junior lawyer that test and then just bring the offer at the end of the story to the senior, from the senior that is taking care of everything and but doesn't even know how to start using AI. So I'm very happy that finally this combination of knowledge is put together in the end for the best of the firm. Now, touching the point of compliance and trust, yeah, I mean, Saga in particular is founded by former lawyers with decades of experience, so they know very well how important this topic is for our clients. From our side, our job is easy, of course, meaning we need to make sure that we give every possible certification, every possible compliance to our clients, but most of all that we are continuously updated on what is going on and what we need to do and what we need to give to our clients to let them feel that they can work in a safe environment substantially, because that's what they are looking for, that's what they are asking. So that's our job from our side. For sure, from your side, there is the one to and then make sure that also who use AI is doing it in a proper way, in a compliant way. Now, AI for sure, if we're talking about hallucination, let's be realistic. There isn't going to be a solution that has no hallucination. It's more about building a system and a workflow that helps the firm to avoid the risk of hallucination, of course. So basically to mitigate this. There are hallucinations, there will be, and the ones that are telling you that there aren't are just selling you something that doesn't exist yet and probably will not exist. But you are all full aware nowadays, and that's the most important thing. In terms of trust to AI, AI is trusted when it comes with trusted sources, of course. So not just a generative output, you know. So if when the clients, what we see with our clients, they want to know where the sources are from, how often these sources are updated. We're talking even about a client, you know, integrating their own internal sources, their own knowledge base. And then the clients want to dig more into this source, and this is what you said before, Emanuela, to double check everything, of course. So, of course, having a reference to this single source, being possible to open it, to analyze it, to deeply understanding where it's coming from. And this, of course, is on us to give you the solution that allows you to do that in the most safe and secure way.
I think apart from the hallucination, which is evident, I think one of the main concern is the transparency of the reasoning behind and what is left behind. Because and I think every platform shows the reasoning and you understand, but of course, from a lawyer perspective, I think the most difficult thing is that really to understand deep what is behind the reason of the platform and trying to challenge. And I think this is for us using the, let's say, and reviewing the work done by junior, trying to challenge the junior and say, but what is the reasoning behind the result from the AI? So have you gone through and read the reasoning? Because I think sometimes the junior comes with the solution with I don't know, with a draft SPA, but then a draft document, draft memo, and then the reasoning is missing. So I think one of the, apart from the hallucination, one of the risk and the concern that we have is the lack of transparency in the reasoning. So you come with the results, but without understanding what's behind. And actually, I think for us as partners, I think this is one of the, also the responsibility to check and to really challenge the platform and the associates in terms of reasoning.
Okay, thank you very much. I think one of the things we have already introduced and we could better elaborate it, how we are training young lawyers and what's next in terms of new young lawyers approaching to this profession and also in terms of awareness of using these tools in the profession, and what are the competences and skills we are requiring them when they approach to this new profession. And of course, one of the biggest question I have, and I don't really have an answer actually, is how do we fill the gap between a new one that is approaching the profession, that needs to gain experience and face problems and try to solve problems, and of course develop competence in terms of also technical competence, and the person who already has this huge knowledge and experience and can make the final decision and strategical decision and final output to the client. So if we really focus in the very first phase of the career on the use of these tools, saying that these tools can especially replace this type of work. So the first part of the work that is a lot of procedural or first drafts and first part of the due diligence that needs to be reviewed. How do very young lawyers learn to train also in terms of technical competence and technical knowledge to be able to reach that position, to say, I am trained enough and prepared enough then to present to a client the final solution, when senior lawyers, the senior people and partners will be, of course, replaced by younger and a new generation. So how do we fill the gap? Your opinion on that?
That's difficult. Let's see in 10 years, probably 5, even 5 would be enough. Okay, I think that's really the question that we all have. And I think what we are doing as a firm is really going through trainings, awareness, and not only at the senior level, at the partners level, but also at the mid and the senior associate level, where they really need to understand that this is not something for us partners to do, but it's also for them. Like, and as I said, challenge the associates in terms of reasoning. And have you gone through the research done by AI? Have you done this? So try. I think so far this is the only answer I can give you. But we have been discussed also, for example, with the Rome Bar and Louis. So we had a session in a few months ago. Louis trying to understand how also the law school should change approach, probably not necessarily change approach, but at least to give a little bit more of training also at law school, not necessarily how to use the prompt, because I think this is something that probably they would learn by themselves easily, but how to really go through the reasoning and trying to analyze the results from the AI critically. So we had this conference at Louis a few months ago, and I think that's an important part of this follow-up discussion, which is not only with the law firms, but also with law schools, because I think let's say if we can really move back the training when you are a law school and you are taught to be really critical on what you read and what you go through, I think also in terms of AI results, that would be helpful. What we sometimes, for example, at Louis, we have been trying to do is give a case, do the case on yourself with your knowledge and with your civil code and with the, let's say, the traditional means, then go on AI, try the results on AI and get the difference between one and the other and try to, let's say, work on those differences and trying to understand if it's better or not and how you can leverage the AI to get a better result. This is one training that we have done, and it was really interesting because, of course, AI found out things that we never thought, which were actually true. So a good point for AI. But, of course, I would say the depth of the analysis done by a lawyer was very, very strong, very deep, and it was very, I would say, rich in terms of legal knowledge. I'm not sure, to be honest, here we are missing one part, which is the client. I think at the end of the day, would the client really like, what kind of approach the client would like to have in the future? Because I see clients that now are telling us, I'm also in a big company, but I cannot afford to have full AI, so I can rely on your AI. And actually, this is for us the next step, offering services to clients and making the AI that we're using accessible to clients through clients' portals, for example. So try to think not only how to adjust our profession and our services, but actually to think out of the box services which can be useful for the clients and we cannot envisaging now. So, for example, would the client be I don't know, available and for sharing with me a lot of documents that they can put on our AI platform and do some, I don't know, work through our AI platform. I think this is for us as a firm the next step in terms of think about what the clients would like in terms of services and trying to really match their expectations. In terms of training, I don't know, it's a difficult question.
Difficult question. No, I know. I know. I also started saying I don't have an answer, so it's the open one. And I also saw some clients that the other way around have good tools that have been already integrated in their systems, and they try to say, okay, we have received this document. I've tried to make a summary, so they return to us with these magnificent tables saying, take a look and see if it makes sense. So they also do the other exercise. So they're saying, I've tried to summarize, use these, but of course put your knowledge in it in order to verify and let us know if it makes sense, where it needs to be fixed. So they also starting to have fun, but of course they are aware that they need someone that has to review the output. So of course they fortunately rely on us and our experience and inputs in order to have a good product that also can be shared internally in terms of alignment or internal meetings, and for everyone to be prepared for the next step of the negotiation or the transaction. So this is another funny thing and funny development of also in terms of clients that are using these tools as well. So Mauro, Alessandro, your last feedback on what's next, also in terms of providers, and what new features you see are coming, or kind of big investments that are also being made in terms for these tools to grow and further adapt to the needs of law firms and other companies that are also following the fast process as it is coming.
Quick note on this thing that interests me very much. So not the outcome, but the assumption here is that everything is transforming drastically, and we can't go back, right? So you talk about university. So the role of professors is changing. The role of partners as well needs to change. So I see AI as an opportunity to do what I like the most. So the old dominoes, right? So the transfer of knowledge on younger generation will keep being present, and maybe older partners will focus even more on that relationship between and among junior associates, because using AI will leave time and floor and space to deepen the relationship. So mentoring, and I feel that is a benefit, and every law firm should benefit from time efficiency. And I will focus, if I were a partner, on that human part that sometimes is lacking. What I see next, that's a very, very big question, but the word is, and the panorama of international solutions is evolving that much from a platform-based solution to a service-based solution. What I mean by that? I mean that AI are and will be even more precise, and will keep progressing every week, as the LLMs behind them are as well. The fact that eventually an AI output will only need the validation, that scares me a little, but I don't see that far from happening. There are some autonomous AI law firms are born in the UK. I don't know the name, but we're gonna be very, not scared, but We have to acknowledge that this thing is about to happen. I'm not a good fan of it, but we as providers should, put in place everything to supervise this process and do it with a very strict, view on that. We are a product company, so we're gonna keep building a product that will serve human lawyers and make lawyers in the best, capabilities to provide what they are able to provide. So their knowledge, their expertise in favor of a client. But I see a service platform more than a product platform in the next future.
Thank you, Mauro. To start, I wanted to mention our strong opinion on training and education, as you mentioned, Manuela, because we really believe that everything should start from education. Not a case we participate. We go so many universities all over Europe to give conference to let them to understand the future lawyers, mainly the importance of implementing AI into their education first, and then in what is next in their career as lawyers. Now, of course, it's not easy, in particular for the Italian education system, that to adapt to this changing, and fortunately we have universities that are working on it, but we cannot see this at national level. So the next step, unfortunately, is on you to make sure that you prepare this young future generation of lawyers in the best possible way. And what I believe that apart from the training, apart from giving them a proper ethical use of AI, you should let them start to think more into systems, a bit more of a process design way of thinking, to have a different approach to how work is being done. And that, implemented with a good use of AI, will definitely change how lawyering will be done in Italy in the next decades. Now, in addition to this, and as Mauro mentioned, again, AI is here to make your job a bit easier, a bit faster, but do not forget to teach them to add that the human touch that is really making the difference with the clients, and that is probably has been missing in the last years. Now we have probably more time available for emphasizing even that. In terms of what's next, personally, I don't believe that AI is going to take over the job of lawyers anytime soon. Absolutely. The importance of lawyers in terms of final revision of working is fundamental. What I see, technology will continuously improve, update, but what I really see we need a difference is more than the technological point of view on the organizational point of view. So we need law firms, they cannot pick 10 different solutions. They need one where this is the base for their everyday job, and they need integration with all the systems that they have. That will help them to have a much more organized way of working, a much better workflow, and for sure then to have much more time available. So I really think that integration, but real integrations, that they work and they allow law firm to work to build an automated workflow, that's really what is the next thing that is needed.
Thank you very much. I think that we have already we have completed our discussion in terms of the main topics we were thinking about. But of course, if you have some specific questions,
probably we may have. Since we are running a little bit
Late,
late, we want
okay.
to thank you first of all
Okay.
for this brilliant presentation. And I'm sure we all have questions for you because you raised a lot of points. I'm also a little bit skeptical on certain balances on the prompting, which is, I think, the most difficult thing. And you need to be very patient. And I'm not sure all the junior lawyers are patient enough to prompt properly. So I would like to discuss this topic with you. But let's have a coffee first, and then we come back. 15 minutes, John? Yeah, 15 minutes, okay?
I want to be very grateful to all of you, but mostly to Andrea, because Mauro, sorry, because
Who's
Mauro,
Andrea?
it's a representative of Lexroom, and this company is help a lot of the Roman lawyers His company is also very friendly to our activities. And recently, can I say this? Your company supported also our tennis competition of the Rum Bar. So we have a sample how a great company can support a bar association with very friendly opportunities to be socialist in the world of the lawyers. Thank you very much, Mauro, and not Andrea.
After such enlightening discussion with the experts of artificial intelligence, who knows me knows that I normally prepare some notes, and I normally don't use those notes and change completely my mind when listening to the others. And this is what happened today again. There were a few words which raised me and raised some questions. One was awareness. Yes, it is true. Now we are all aware of the existence of artificial intelligence, and we know that we have to deal with it. What I liked very much was when there was someone referring to the human touch. The human touch, because when we use artificial intelligence, whenever we obtain an output from using the artificial intelligence, we always have to remember that we have to remain accountable. Accountability is responsible for the result. So accountability is one of the most important things. And this brought me back to Umberto Eco, who, for those who are not Italian, is a writer. He passed away a few years ago. And during a lesson that he made at Accademia dei Lincei, where all the brightest people in Italy are members, I'm not, making this speech, he made the distinction between cyber information and semantic information. Cyber information is a matter of quantity. It's a matter of data which are statistically combined. And this is artificial intelligence. Semantic information is a matter of quality, meaning that only the human being can really get the sense of the words. So what is produced right now by artificial intelligence is something that we human being can understand. The artificial intelligence cannot understand itself. That was extremely interesting, and came to my mind listening to this morning, 1 hour ago, the other panel. So, and what happens now? The conclusive question, which has been my question in the last couple of years, how to fill the gap. This was raised again in the former panel. This is the real question in my view. I think that there is not a proper answer other than admitting that and realizing that the profession is changing. The legal profession will be completely different from what we have seen in the last years. And this is a transitional period, I'm convinced of that. And in this transitional period, the cooperation between more experienced lawyers and young lawyers is crucial. So this brings us to the theme and to the argument, the topic of our panel, cooperation among young lawyers and senior lawyers. And I'm very glad to introduce Paul and Max Marmor, which are really a case study of cooperation between two generations. Please.
Thank you, Gianmatteo. So, yes, I'm Paul Marmor. By day, I run the litigation department of a law firm in London, Sherard Solicitors, and by night, I'm helping to develop our international footprint, including playing a very large part in the International Bar Association and the Law Firm Management Committee. Max is a newly qualified lawyer. Do I call you Massimo or Maximiliano today?
In Italia, Massimiliano.
Okay, Massimiliano. So Max is a newly qualified corporate lawyer with the firm. And as Gianmatteo says, we are father and son. Gosh, what's that like working together? And that's part of the case study. And yes, we're talking about the tech, older and newer. How does it all work? What are the challenges of working together? Well, one of the challenges is embarrassment. Sorry, Max. So it's about how he's late 20s. It's about 30 years ago that I came to Rome for my first time to begin my honeymoon. How great is that? And we stayed in the Hotel Condotti. And 30 years later, actually it was 34 years later, but I hope you're not too embarrassed. But it's a great source of pride to be sitting here today with Max and to talk to you about the combination of generations. And so, as the case study is, it began in COVID. Just remind me, Max, how did it begin and where did your journey start?
Well, I think it's fair to say that the story we tell is that it began in COVID, but really it began about 20 years ago. Aged 7 or 8 I was when I first went to the law firm. And the question then, with an 8-year-old babysitting him after school, was what can we give him to do? What work can we give him? And having been born as part of a generation with the iPhone sort of in my hand, it was, well, let's get him on the printer, let's get him scanning, let's get him copying. And like all good junior lawyers, I knew I needed a charge out rate. And it was I think it was 1 chocolate per hour at the time. And obviously these days as a qualified solicitor, it's gone up slightly. But fast forward 14, 15 years to COVID 6 years ago, and you needed support. I had plans to travel the world, as I think everyone did. We all had plans. And whilst they were uprooted, you had, would you say, more work than ever?
So an extraordinary amount of work suddenly landed on my desk. I wasn't traveling anywhere. I was living at home in my suburb in Pinner, and I needed a paralegal. And Max had just graduated from university. Sitting upstairs, Max, come down and help me. What did you do?
Well, I think it's fair to say you needed a paralegal who was good with technology. Because in the COVID world, in the newfound sort of virtual world, everything had moved online, and the particular case that you needed support for was what it turned out to be the longest virtual trial in the UK court history, in English court history. And you needed someone who knew how to operate computers, how to deal with large volumes of documents, due diligence, disclosure, and I became that person. And I didn't go into it as someone who necessarily wanted to be a lawyer. Actually, I studied history and Italian. Voglio dire buongiorno a tutti in italiano perché sono stato alla Sapienza per 1 anno per Erasmus, 8 anni fa. However, what I had was technical skills, obviously the willingness to help you out and to learn, and that led me to Paris in October 2020, setting up a virtual courtroom to assist our Ukrainian client in this virtual trial being held in the High Court in London. And he was giving evidence for 4 days, which is quite a long time to give evidence, I think, as any litigator would tell you. And I was in the room with him. And one memory from that experience, just being in the room with my Ukrainian-speaking client, that really stands out and is pertinent to the topic at hand, technology, AI, is it was an English court trial, so he was speaking through a translation service. There were channels on the virtual courtroom on Zoom. So certain people, if they spoke Ukrainian, were listening to the Ukrainian, but the majority of the people online, and there were 6 different firms and 60, 70, 80 lawyers, God knows how many involved, were listening to the English. And and bear in mind, this is October 2020. my client, who I was sat next to helping pass documents and the rest, had spent all day sort of quite unwell, sort of coughing quite a bit, and it was quite unnerving. And at the end of the day, I said to the senior partner I was with, well, you know, this is an issue. France went into lockdown 2 days ago, and 95% of the people attending the trial had not picked it up because the technology is so good these days that the translation exists where they had listened to the English seemingly, but not listened to the native Ukrainian and the coughing and the COVID and the rest. Anyway, he was fine and the case progressed and it was...
Well, actually, Max had to write to me behind in back channels to tell me that we had a serious problem because we had to delay the trial for 2 days to get testing. So if you remember those days where PCR had not been invented when we started the trial in November 2020 in Paris, which was on an incredibly serious lockdown. I'm in London watching the trial virtually. Max reached out to me through back channels. I then had to write to the judge to beg for an adjournment for the 2 days, not because we were playing games, whilst then Max had to sort out a PCR test, which he did. Unfortunately, it came back the right way and we carried on the trial, but it was an extraordinary being. But is it fair to say you stopped being my son at that point and you were suddenly your own person in your own right?
I think the key takeaway from me from that trial and that experience and that 6 months working closely together and working with some of your colleagues and now my colleagues is that I was inspired to become a lawyer, not necessarily a litigator as Paul is, but certainly to pursue law, and it led me to go back into study because certainly in England, I think it's different in Italy. You don't have to study law at undergraduate. I studied history and Italian. I then went and did the conversion course, and I had the opportunity in the sort of 2021 COVID era to do it in person or to do it remotely. And I wanted to be in person in a room with people where I could learn from them, from colleagues, from professors, rather than being behind a screen. And I was thinking about that in the first session as the panelists were questioning, well, what is one of the one ways that junior people can continue to learn and develop, you know, with AI that's come in and you have all the answers in front of you? How can juniors still continue to learn? And certainly my experience, whether that's in a classroom studying, and this is before AI, I feel somewhat fortunately, but also then as a trainee in a law firm in London, is very much by being there, having the ability to learn. In English we say by osmosis, but really by listening to the people around you, by being able to question your seniors, obviously to attend meetings and watch them in action, and that is still, for me, and certainly a formative part of my experience and my training, learning from colleagues. I think it's fair to say.
There's no doubt that there is a tension in the profession that we're experiencing between senior and junior lawyers, and everybody is talking about AI, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And where does it leave a younger lawyer in today's society? Well, I think it gives a younger lawyer the opportunity to step forward and be heard, be noted, and be taken seriously. I struggled in COVID with the technology of getting the screens together, getting the Zoom, dealing with the data, which the case that we dealt with was just megabytes of more data and this and that. Max happened to be there, but Max and other colleagues in my firm are making themselves noted through their use of technology. So how did I first come across AI? Well, 2 years ago, maybe 2.5 years ago, I gave an assignment to one of our trainees in my department. And I said, Alexandra, I am delivering or involved in a panel at the IBA talking about women in the law and diversity. And I asked Alex to help me with some notes, and she came back 2 hours later with an extraordinary paper, well beyond her years, and I was just blown away. And I took this to my head of marketing, Sophie, and I said, Sophie, we have a genius in our ranks. This lady is extraordinary. And Sophie looked at me and said, I don't know if you ever had the program The Muppets. Do you know the term The Muppets? What's a Muppet in Italian? But she said, Paul, you are a Muppet. This was written by AI, not by. So I went back to Alexandra and I said, Alexandra, who wrote this? Was it you or AI? Just tell me the truth. She said, AI. I said, Alexandra, teach me. And that is how. And actually, Alexandra more recently has become Max, because when we're at home with little to talk about, the football's not so good, it's raining outside, what do he and I do? He's teaching me AI, but that is how I first came across AI. And I think as a young person, you can make a mark. Don't fear AI, embrace it if you're a younger person. So Max and I got to the point where he joined the academy at our firm and qualified. And then it came to the point of, what's your future going to look like? Where are you going to go? And I'm sure the younger people in this room are dealing with that issue, whether you've come to qualification, you're thinking long term. So Max, how did you shape your career decision making with AI in the background? What was your thinking as a younger person?
Well, by this point in my life, AI was present, was prominent. Obviously, it's been around for a few years now, and I qualified towards the end of last year, so I really am a junior lawyer. And I had a decision to make. I was, you hear from one person that, well, the whole industry's going up in flames. We don't need lawyers. AI will do it for you. Or you hear, well, actually, it's the property lawyers. Apologies to any property lawyers who are going to be cut, because the AI can churn out the documents. We don't need their support. Well, I had vast experience. I'd spent time in litigation. I'd spent time in property, and I'd spent a lot of time in corporate. And for me, I thought, really, AI is something that can be embraced. The digital era is something that can be embraced. And it just opens up a whole new range of possibilities. Now, I recognize that I speak in the infancy of my career, but already I'm thinking, well, I can do M&A and I can do corporate law, and that's great, and that really does interest me. But can I expand on it with some more niche topics? AI, not necessarily with AI itself, although thanks to the AI, everyone becomes a master pretty quickly. But things such as GDPR, crypto is a big one, and IP are topics that are constantly, I would say, expanding in the digital era. Yeah, and whilst thanks to the platforms, as I say, I think we have an ability to understand them at a base level very quickly. My takeaway for the future of young lawyers, or certainly as I was thinking, where should I go, what should I do, is, well, really the industry is only going to expand. The areas of law are going to expand. If I embrace the AI as a young corporate lawyer, I can be at the forefront of it.
I mean, one person we were speaking to, an Italian, to do our research, said, well, he thinks it is good now to focus less on the big conglomerates and the industrial listed companies, because they will have their own in-house legal departments which will keep and retain the work. But we should look to the middle-sized companies and smaller who will still need us. And I thought that was very interesting. I think the other side of that equation, if I was a younger lawyer, be it Max or another corporate lawyer in the room, would be to think there's going to be a lot more opportunity to join businesses and to join situations where you may go to a bank in-house as a legal advisor. And I think, personally, my outlook will be there will be less traditional law firms, whether it's in the UK or elsewhere, and there will be more growth in legal departments. And I think if you're heading towards a corporate career with a knowledge of AI, that will help and enhance what your future might look like. Now, I know we're running on a schedule, so in terms of the father-son professional relationship, I think the positives for us has been having somebody, a colleague on side with the trust, the shared values and the mentorship. For me personally, being able to pass on the baton. Have you got any negatives? Surely not.
There are a few. It's I think it's more accepted in Italy than in London, perhaps. But there can be challenges working with your father and for periods on time. Also, then living together. There's little separation from work, and certainly my girlfriend can't stand it when I come home and talk to him about work all evening.
There's 3 in their relationship, I'm afraid. But there are challenges, establishing identity, standing up. But on the other hand, the other side.
Well, the main positive is that we learn from each other. You know, I've learned what it means to be a lawyer, not just in an office drafting a contract or on the phone to a client, but, you know, out and about, meeting people, networking, learning how to bring business to the firm. At the same time, actually, I think the example you touched upon earlier about our sort of AI training sessions on a Friday evening in the kitchen, whilst my girlfriend was making dinner, was a really good example, because whilst I have been using the technology longer than you, I feel comfortable using it. I understand the user interface. As I sat down to explain how it works to you, immediately I found that your sort of 30 odd years of experience for me meant that maybe I could think a different way about what to ask and how to prompt. And it's sort of invaluable knowledge that I haven't necessarily got yet, or junior lawyers have not necessarily amassed, but will come in time as we continue to use the technology.
So we're going to wrap up our case study, but I do genuinely believe AI has so much to offer. I had an example yesterday, which was, for me, it blew me away. I will confess, we are using the Saga system that was talked about this morning, and when we were, or in the panel before us, and when we were asked to look for a provider, I said Saga, they have an office in Rome, and so forth and so forth. But this isn't about Saga, because any of the systems can do this. Sorry, Saga, but you're great. But we were interviewing witnesses yesterday on Zoom, which I can now do on my own. Thank you, Max. In China. And I have a Chinese partner, but much of the dialogue was in Chinese, and we were recording the call and using a mixture of Microsoft Word and Copilot. The transcript was produced, but not just in Chinese, straight into English. In my language, I could have put it into Italian if I'd wanted. I then put the program and the output into the Saga machine, and I said, Saga, make this sensible, put it into order, give me a concise account of what we've just heard, a 2-hour meeting, and it did it perfectly. And with that kind of technology, we're just blasting through. So I have to say, if you're an older, more experienced lawyer in the room, it is definitely worth embracing. I have 2 pieces of advice that I would give to everybody. That people say, you're not going to lose your job to AI, you're going to lose your job to people who use AI, and I think that is so true. It's a cliche, but absolutely true. My second piece of advice, which I give Max every day since he went to high school and university and law school, is if you're a younger person, the people around you when you're at bar school and at university are your future sources of work in the legal profession. Keep that. I just wish I'd made some friends at that age, which would have been great, but we work hard. The IBA really helps do that. So look, that's just a few thoughts from us to set the scene. And I know, Gina Mato, we have some excellent panel members to pick up the baton.
Thank you very much, Paul and Max. It was. I think it fitted perfectly with what I was my first initial remark on how to responding to how to fill the gap. You are an example, although you are father and son, but this can work equally between a senior and young lawyer, regardless of being father and son. You are the example of this idea, which came to my mind right a few minutes ago, of the transitional period. This is how the profession can evolve, and this can evolve only through the cooperation between young and senior lawyers in this transitional period. Now, let me, since I'm a very lazy moderator, I will not be reading anything about Joao and the other speakers. They will introduce themselves. So, Joao, please.
Well, thank you, Gianmatteo. Thank you, Alessandro, Paul, and Max, and everybody else. Well, I'm a little bit angry because this session stole my idea for the Copenhagen meeting. I believe some of you are going to attend the IBA conference in Copenhagen this fall. So I'm sharing a session that is called Can Old Dogs Learn New Tricks and Can Young Dogs Learn Old Tricks? In Italian, i vecchi cani possono imparare nuovi trucchi, i giovani cani possono imparare i vecchi trucchi. And it reminds me that I have 4 kids, different ages, different wives. I'm an old guy. And my firm has 30 people, and I have 2 daughters working with me. One is very conservative, doesn't want to do nothing with the technology, and the other one is very, wow, let's go face it. And a few years ago, I was watching, you remember the movie with Schwarzenegger, Terminator, the machines come from the future. By the way, the machines should have raised in 2024, and we would have been wiped out. But the main thing of the first movie is that Schwarzenegger comes to Earth to find Sarah Connor and kill her because she's going to give birth to the savior of humanity. So how does he go about it? He enters the telephone booth and he has a list of names. And my kids, what is he doing? They are not familiar with the concept that there was like a book with all the names listed of people that had telephones. Now they say, but what is this? And that reminds me also that when I started working as a lawyer, I was using an electronic typewriter. And we were very careful. I was commenting this with Paul this morning, with the mistakes we made, because if there was mistakes, you have to begin again the whole page. So if you're going to do a brief, you will think it thoroughly before putting it into writing, because there was no copy, paste, erase. That did not exist. And then came the internet, and then came email, and we didn't see it coming. And AI, frankly, I did not see it coming. But I think I subscribed to ChatGPT the first week it was launched. And I said, well, what is coming around is really, this is going to change our lives. And I think we are, as everybody has been talking, and Max said it, in the infancy of AI. Because everybody says that general artificial intelligence, in which I'll have an agent, and I say, okay, do this. You know, have you ever had the impression that if you are talking to an associate and tell, well, let's contest this claim this way, it never goes out the way you wanted it. There is always like we cannot transmit exactly what we want, and a lot of times I'm not happy with the outcome. It could be better, you know, this quest for perfection. One of these days, whatever we think can be enhanced, improved, and made easier. So what's left for lawyers? I think the basic idea of being a lawyer, which is being a trusted advisor and being the voice for someone. I remember I love Rome history, Roman history historically. And when you read about Cicerone, as you say, and the judgments at the Rostra, criminal judgments, apparently you spend one day just bashing the opposite party. They are awful. They are this and this and that. The other day you were praising your clients, and then it was like 5 minutes to talk about the evidence. And maybe we are cutting. Yes, machines will be able to do a lot of things better than us. But like Mateo saying, the human touch. And I remember reading Umberto Eco, the Pendulum, como se diz em italiano? The Pendulum de Foucault. They had a computer called Abulafia. And it was in the infancy of computers. And I think he saw the idea that maybe AI is like cooking. Look, I don't know if anyone of you likes cooking, but cooking has like at least 3 stages. Well, you select the ingredients, nice mozzarella, nice carrots, nice prosciutto, and then you have a part that is not so fancy, which is like peeling the onions, you cry, and the potatoes and all of that. And then you have the creativity. You assemble those ingredients together and you create a dish that is tasty, that is yummy. And then you put it nice in a plate and you serve it. Well, maybe AI is the thing that is peeling the potatoes and the onions for you and making the presentation. And the creativity, that's what is going to be left for us. And I like that part. I never like peeling onions or potatoes. As much as I like going, who wants to see financial statements in an Excel spreadsheet? Any fun? If I have a machine can say, okay, look at page 33, that line, that is wrong. Well, much better. I don't see any improvement for us. I just want to finish with another note, the relation with the client. I do mostly family offices and private clients who are entrepreneurs, not people sitting around getting rents, but doing things and buying things and industrial stuff. And what I see, first, they demand that you use artificial intelligence. And the first time they ask you, well, but it should be cheaper now because we have AI. No, now it's more expensive because we deliver greater work in a shorter time. But we can get to the detail that we couldn't do before in the timeline that you give us. So there is no reason for it to be cheaper. What might be challenged is really the billable hour method. Maybe we have to start doing like investment banks doing for the what is the value, what I'm delivering to you, and charge accordingly. Anyway, I see a bright future. Terminator is gone. The machines have not risen. We were not wiped out in 2024, and we are still there. And I think we're going to be around for some more time.
Thank you, Joel. If you want to introduce yourself, by the way, because this was meant to be your introduction.
Oh, yes, I'm a lawyer. Sono un avvocato, ho la pretensione di parlare un po' di italiano e so co-chair con Antoine Maffei of the Senior Lawyers Committee of the IBA. And I have a small practice in Portugal, Lisbon, 30 lawyers, a lot of paralegals, and we do fine. We have a good life. That's all you need to know.
Thank you very much. I can confirm that he enjoys life very much. Scusa che ti ho perso di vista. Daniele, dai, perdonami.
I will be a bit boring after all the quotes, literature and kitchen quotes from Joao. I will just introduce myself. I'm Daniele Bartoli. I'm a managing associate at Gatti Pavesi Bianchi Ludovici. I'm based in Milan and I'm active in the corporate M&A department. I developed my whole career at the firm, during which I held a secondment for 1 year at Maire Tecnimont, an oil and gas company based in Rome and Milan. Within the firm, I'm part of the so-called Innovation Committee, which was set up and entrusted with delegations also in the technological adaptation of the firm. And within the IBA, I'm part of the Young Lawyers Committee and the national representative for Italy.
Thank you, Gian Matteo. I'm Stephen Wilson, King's Counsel. I am an English-trained barrister, but like any of you who have visited England, I couldn't stand the weather, and I moved 25 years ago to the Turks and Caicos Islands. And I have practiced as a commercial litigator and attorney in the Turks and Caicos Islands ever since. If any of you know the Turks and Caicos Islands, you will know that we are famous for one thing. We are regularly voted as the world's best beach. Now, as a legal community, we are very small. I am the managing partner of the firm Wilson Wells. We are 5 fee earners that makes us a mid-size firm in the Turks and Caicos Islands. Turks and Caicos Islands, you would think, is not very quick on picking up technology. But you might be wrong. Because the second thing that we were best at, or first at, or at least is a claim to fame, is that we were one of the first jurisdictions in the world, and certainly the first jurisdiction in the Caribbean, to issue a practice direction about the use of AI in court proceedings. So we as lawyers, even if you're a litigant in person, and the judges must certify if you have used AI in the preparation of any of your court documents, including a judgment. And if you have done so, that you have checked the sources. Now, picking up on what Paul said, Paul and I are roughly the same age, and I have the same lack of affinity for technology as he used to have. But I can say, and I'm going to make a lot of plugs for the IBA in this, and indeed Rome. Rome has a very special place in my heart on a number of levels. I'm from Liverpool. Rome was where Liverpool won their first European Champions Cup. Rome was also the first city that I went to that was hosting an IBA annual meeting, and it's still tough to beat that one because of all the party locations. But my first exposure to what I suppose we would call AI now was at the IBA Litigation Forum in Zurich in 2017, where IBM were there promoting Watson. Does anybody remember Watson? That was supposed to revolutionize the legal profession. The problem was it was only affordable for big law, and it was only worth using if you were involved in cases that might have more than 100,000 documents to go through. But that left me with an impression that these technologies were never going to be affordable or useful for a small firm in the Turks and Caicos Islands. It was then about 3 years ago that I was at a conference, and I heard a tech-savvy lawyer from New York going on and on about ChatGPT, which I'd never heard of. So being the oldest of the 5 lawyers in my firm, I asked the young uns, have you ever heard of ChatGPT? And I got a response not unlike Paul's. What, you muppet, you've never heard of ChatGPT? So then my partner, who's several years younger than I am, my business partner, started showing me how to use ChatGPT. And I experienced the good, the bad, and the ugly. I thought, this is fantastic. It drafted a letter about dredging within seconds. But when I put in 4 contract documents in relation to a limited partnership and asked, what is the waterfall of payments in the event that this limited partner was to sell its assets? it told me of a clause that didn't exist in any of those 4 documents. Now, this isn't searching the internet, this is searching just 4 PDFs, and it hallucinated. And I looked for the clause that it had identified, and I said, there's no such clause. And it said, you're right to question this. It is, in fact, this clause, another clause that didn't exist. This happened 4 times, by which time I could have read the document myself and found it. I told that story at a conference, and there was a US lawyer on the table with me, and he said, what, you uploaded confidential documents to an open source generative AI? I went white as a sheet as he told me, do you know that's now the first question in any deposition in the US? If you've uploaded what would otherwise be confidential, well, more like privileged documents to an open source AI, you've just waived the legal profession privilege in those documents and your communications with your client. Which is why, of course, we're all now told, do not under any circumstances use ChatGPT. And I feel, as a result of attending various IBA events and IR Global events, where the topic du jour is AI, that I can stand over clients and lecture them and say, do not stick these documents in ChatGPT, just as I had to 3 days ago. And I think one of the things that we're probably all seeing, and hasn't been touched upon yet because we're talking about the use that we make of artificial intelligence, is the number of clients who are using it, either just to communicate instructions to us or to run our advice through it and then second guess us. So in terms of how the generations can assist each other, our experiences and passing that on is something that's incredibly important. In an office of only 5 lawyers that occupies less square footage than this room, it's very easy to be collegiate and have the conversations that have assisted you. And the young uns keep teaching me every day about apps and what I should be doing and should not be doing.
Thank you very much. Daniele, you haven't touched base. I mean, you were the only one who introduced himself without making a speech. But so you are very humble. No, but you mentioned a topic which could be another way to cope. I mean, goes back to what Paul and Max were saying to some extent, and what has been said in the previous panel, because you mentioned the fact that you are part of the technical committee or technology committee internally. Yeah. Can you explain to us how is it formed? Do you have younger and senior lawyers? How do you manage and deal with these matters?
The AI adaptation for our firm was, came a bit late, probably compared to the other big Italian firms. We tried different tools such as Harvey, Lydia, and Legora. And then after having seen the commercial with Jude Law, of course, we chose Legora. But I think that we did the right way, because before implementing it and rolling it out in the firm, we set up this innovation committee. Is an intergenerational committee and a cross-practice committee. Is made up of partners, senior associates, and mid associates. And we observed a lot of different type of reactions also among the same categories, let's say, of lawyers, because among senior lawyers, some of them were reluctant. They said, like, I'm better than the machine, basically. And some other were very eager, maybe more than the younger lawyers. On the other side, the young lawyers, some of them are reluctant because they see that maybe the machine is coming for their jobs more than for those of the senior ones. But what we observed and was very interesting was the reverse mentoring and the intergenerational collaboration. because we tried to, adapt the platform to our firm rather than the other way around. So we worked on selecting the models, to revise the prompts, to work on how the platform integrates with our general IT platform. And so there was a very huge work, shoulder by shoulder, between senior lawyers and young lawyers. And now we are implementing a policy and some technical protocols in order also to protect confidentiality, for instance. One of the most significant outcomes, which maybe can be also discussed, is that the partners decided not to allow the trainees to use the Legora, because there is this underlying idea that the trainees need to learn from scratch. The idea that if you don't know how to do it without it, you are not able to use it in the proper way. I tend to disagree, because when I was a trainee, the senior lawyers were, sharing with me a previous draft, very similar, or giving me very specific directions. So I think that in a way, also using this kind of digital tools for the trainees, which are supposed to be AI native or more used to it, could be a competitive advantage.
Thank you very much. You are facing similar question that we are posing to ourselves. So it's very interesting to know, to learn that there are others who are thinking in the same way. One question I would like to make at the end of this panel is, don't you think, and I'd like to have a spot answer from each of you, that the artificial intelligence will end up creating a kind of barrier to the market, to the entry in the market, for two different reasons, at least from what I see. One is not all the law firms can pay so much for Harvey, and so not all the lawyers have the capability, the economical capability to get this kind of products. And the second kind of barrier, which in my view is even more dangerous, is that if I were, and unfortunately I'm no longer a young lawyer, I would look for the most sophisticated in terms of digitalization and artificial intelligence law firm, because the answer is there. I mean, the future is there. So those firms who are not so sophisticated will be losing to the market the most talented, the most brilliant young lawyers. I'd like to understand whether you share this view and whether you have any other comments.
Perhaps I'll go first, because we have thought about it, and there is no doubt that when candidates are coming to interview, one of the first questions they're asking is, what have you got in terms of the back office support on the AI? What is your attitude? They want to know our mentality without any doubt whatsoever. I also think, in terms of which law firms are going to survive or what the profession will look like, is that those who embrace AI have some chance. If you don't, I think there will be few who will continue to exist without any doubt. I think that's.
Thank you. Any other comments?
I think I could add to this as someone, and I don't think this comes as a surprise to you, but I apologize, who is probably looking to move on to a new firm at some point in the future.
What?
Can't work with Dad forever.
This whole theme is embracing your leaving.
Well,
I brought you to Rome. Okay, we're sharing a room together. You're a bit.
he has said to me, if I take him with him, that's okay. So we'll find somewhere.
Looking good.
But certainly from the perspective of a junior lawyer looking to move on, I would feel apprehensive about going to a firm, like you just said, that didn't have some sort of AI system in place. I don't want to be reliant on it, and I'm nervous about being reliant on AI to effectively do my job for me, although the job obviously is changing. But it's a useful tool, it's here. And this is a point that Stephen touched upon and was touched upon in the previous panel, but if clients have access to it, even in the very basic form, ChatGPT, the free version, and they are bombarding you with 100 questions, whereas 5 years ago it would have been 10 questions. Or if you go back to them, they're not taking what you've said as their trusted lawyer as gospel, but putting it into ChatGPT and coming back with another 100 questions, then I think that I would want to have the technology in place to deal with that without having to trawl through 100, 200, 500 questions. 95% may not really be relevant to the topic at hand. So yeah, I think those are my sort of thoughts on the topic.
Thank you. Yes, Joao.
Well, I think if anything, I'm at a small firm. AI level the playing field, because not so long ago, big law had all these vaults with all these templates that they will share with no one. And that power of that knowledge will keep the competitors away. And if you are a smart lawyer, because about the trainees, I started doing anything that came my way. I will not say I'm a corporate lawyer or I'm a criminal lawyer. Whatever work will come my way, I will take it because I had no other choice. So I think a person that is a real lawyer, he has some train, he has a challenge, and he seeks solutions. And if he can find it, he invents or asks someone else. And then we went into specialization, which is maybe
the topic for another seminar.
For another seminar, but for anyone, I think, apart from making templates, it's also an encyclopedia. Sometimes you were baffled because some fancy lawyer come around you with the latest link on private equity. Oh, now I'm doing safe, I'm doing this. You were like this, but you don't need Harvey. You just go to Claude or ChatGPT. What is this? And it tell you anything you need to know about the financial term, about anything. I think the power of the information that is at our hands is fantastic, it's fabulous. We've never had so much information. What will you have? Dictionary or an encyclopedia that was reviewed? I don't know. The British Encyclopedia had like a new chapter. The Britannica had like a new add-on every year, but you could afford to buy it anyway. So I'm all for it. All for it.
Bye, Daniele.
Yeah, from that point of view, I would be also worried on the potential competition of the AI providers. Maybe in Italy there will be also deontological problems, but in the US, maybe Harvey could also decide to, launch a firm of its own. So we have, of course, to see at the legal market itself, but also on the potential entrance of these providers, I think.
Oh, that's
interesting. You don't know the lobbying power of the American lawyers.
The experienced lawyer with his view and the young lawyer. Stephen, do you want to?
I will add only one thing, and it was something that was said at the IBA Litigation Forum in Madrid last month. If your law firm is still on the fence, waiting to see what others experience before deciding to commit to AI, you're already too late.
Yes. All right. So it's a positive comment to end up to close the meeting. I think at the end of the day, what we got from this, in my view, extremely interesting afternoon is that the view which was shared by the European Union legislator, I mean, the view of an anthropocentric artificial intelligence where the human being still stays at the center of the universe and at the center, obviously, of the use and the accountability which comes after the use of the artificial intelligence is there, is still, and this is the positive comment I'm trying to make out of it. And in terms of human beings, the relationship between the cooperation between young and less young. I've been traumatized a couple of weeks ago in Istanbul when I learned that for a few months, I am part of the boomer generation. And this was a shock to me. So I don't want to talk about senior lawyers. I talk with less young lawyer, but however, I think the cooperation between the two of them is essential for the succession plan within the firm and for the future of the firm, because without a succession plan, our firms will be over in 1 decade. So, and this is, I'd like, first of all, if there is any question from the floor. It's raining, so you will be kept here in any case. Yes. Do you want to get a microphone? Because I cannot hear you. You know, I'm getting older. Younger. Yeah. Maybe you can introduce yourself.
Okay.
You come from...
My name is Arzu Ongur. I'm from Turkey, and I'm representing Turkish Bar Union national level for the IBA, Council for IBA. First of all, it was a very interesting event because observing the perspective of the lawyers from different jurisdictions is very interesting, because we were also discussing this title internally. I would like to share one opinion. During last 6 months, especially, in my firm, in my law firm, we have been receiving calls from the clients. They say, "We found you through AI." And when I received the first call, and I said, "Well, how did you find us?" Because normally it comes through references. We are not very present with online work. And I clearly understand that these AI tools check previous court orders and legal opinions and finds out the success rates of the law firms. And it was like, with my associates in Ankara, I was wondering with young colleagues, how come they can find this information? Because some of them are confidential, like the administrative court decision. There was a confidentiality clause, but the client, the candidate client was referring one of the confidential court decision. And it is a very big concern about, first, marketing of the law firms. Second, a really big concern about the confidentiality, because somehow they are reaching the court decisions, somehow they are reaching the very important information that shouldn't be linked to the public. And I was wondering, what is your opinion?
But you got the client at the end.
At the final, yes.
So I wouldn't be so concerned. Stephen, you wanted to say something?
Well, no, my guess is that somebody somewhere uploaded that decision onto ChatGPT or Claude, and that's why it's out there in the universe.
It is true that it is very dangerous, Arzu. Any other question? Chiara, I need to say, sorry, because I was a terrible moderator, I remember, and I haven't introduced any of the speakers, but Chiara, I had to introduce her. And now, Chiara is a brilliant lawyer. She wrote it for me. A brilliant lawyer. Yeah, she's a partner in the Berkey Yakia, and it's a very well-known firm with 51 years of life, with offices in Rome, Milan, Brussels, and Moscow, which is quite interesting. We would need another session to discuss about this office. She specializes in civil and commercial litigation, and she serves as AIJA liaison officer with the Young Lawyers Committee of the IBA. And after 5 years as vice president and co-president of the AIJA Litigation Commission, she is now AIJA co-chair of the Bar Relations Coordination Team within the extended bureau. What does it mean? I don't know, but I read it. Thank you, Chiara. But she has been brilliant in helping us organizing this event.
No, I want to reciprocate this to Gian Matteo because he's not only a partner of a very important law firm, but he's like I think one of the most reliable senior, but not senior, experienced lawyer I had the pleasure to work with.
I take it as a compliment.
And
Okay.
always, I mean, very early bird, I must say, as a person. But thank you very much. It was a pleasure organizing this with you. But I collected and gathered a lot of thoughts about this topic, and I think that all of us we are very much into this, whether you are super young, mid, or experienced or seasoned, whatever. One thing I would like to hear because I see some young faces there in the audience, and the others probably are stuck in the law firms, so someone sees them, didn't let them out in this rainy afternoon. Because what I see in our firm is that sometimes the being reluctant to the use of AI is not really linked to age, but it's really a personal approach. So we have very junior or very senior lawyers, very experienced or seasoned lawyers who are really eager to use it. And I think as we discussed in the first panel also because they already have the sense of the matter, so they really know where to go. They really know how to navigate the answers that the AI gives them. So it's easier for them to skip, all the steps, instruct a trainee, have an associate reviewing the work, having a senior associate reviewing, and so on and so on. So you say, okay, I'll do it myself. On or the other side, I see junior associates who are not really there, and probably this is also mixed. You might be a boomer, Gian Matteo, but now our junior are like Gen Z or even Gen Alpha. So it's also a completely different approach to the work life, to the way they're working, to the way they see their career. But I really think that this is a lesson for everyone. If you don't have lawyers in a law firm, you don't have law firms. You don't have IBA, you don't have IGR, you don't have clients, you don't have customers. So everybody took a oath. I think when we started this career, after graduation, you don't know anything. You don't know how to do anything, nothing. So there is someone teaching you and helping you navigating in through the profession. And this is really something that we shall keep at all costs. Because if we really think that, using a laptop can replace all the team in law firms, then our profession is gone. Rome Council is gone. This room is gone. Pension fund for lawyers is gone, and then all other implications around. But on the Moscow office, I'm open to discussion, but separately, okay?
Thank you very much, Chiara. Well, I think it stopped raining, so we can leave. And I want to thank the president of the Bar Council, the Rome Bar Council, the Rome Bar, whatever. I mean, the Rome Bar. It has been an honor for us, a privilege. I think it has been very interesting for all of us staying here and listening to each other. And thank you for all the panelists, those who traveled from abroad especially, but also those who traveled from Italy, from Milan to Rome. It can be a journey sometimes, and for all of you who had the patience of remaining in the room. Thank you very much. Grazie mille, Presidente, forever.
Thank you. So do I. I'm very grateful to everybody from panelists. I repeat, Gian Matteo, Chiara, because Rome Bar want to work on in the internationalization of our activities. We are sure that Rome can grow up again in the field of the international relations. And so thank you very much for this opportunity. Bye.
We all wait for you at our firm in Piazza di Pietra for a cocktail reception. So now it's not raining. You can walk. It's a 20 minutes sunshine. So
you've got Negronis.
Please come and enjoy. La foto vuoi fare?